Welcome to Pepper Shock Media's Marketing Expedition podcast, keeping you up to date with the latest in marketing and advertising. Now here's your host, Rhea Allen.
Welcome to the Marketing Expedition series. I'm Rhea Allen, President and CEO of Pepper Shock Media, also a Chief Marketing Officer for hire. And we're going to go on a marketing expedition, and today we're going to be talking about culture and branding. And along with us today is Megan Bryant. Megan, tell us who you are and what you do.
All right. I'm Megan Bryant. I'm a comedian. I'm an improv trainer. I'm an author. I just like to play. I'm a humor enthusiast. Might be a good tagline.
I like it. Yeah. Inspirational humor enthusiast.
Yes.
All of the above.
Ooh, yeah. Let's get all those good ists.
Okay. And so Zip Zap Zop. When did Zip Zap Zop start? And tell me a little bit about the history of why you are an improv coach.
Okay. Well, Zip Zap Zop originally entered my life 12 years ago when I first started playing improv just as a fun outlet for me. So it's actually an improv game. It's the most basic form of how to get people interacting, breaking the ice type of thing. So,
Zip.
Yeah, zap.
Zop. Ooh. Nice. So what do we have to do when we mess it up? What was it?
I like to step in and we put both fists up and we say, "Awooga," and we reset. Because it's okay when people mess up, obviously. It's a safe place in the world of improv to get a little crazy and mess up. But when it came time in my life where I was transitioning out of having a regular day job and staying home with kids and seeing how much improv impacted my life, and I wanted to do improv more regularly, my older brother and I, who run the company, decided, well, let's just call it Zip Zap Zop, because it's kind of a weird enough name that people are going to go, well, what's Zip Zap Zop? And it's also the namesake of a very basic, easy improv activity that hooks people really quickly.
So when you go in the corporate setting and you're working with people like engineers or CPAs or, not to typecast anyone, but tell me the experience. What happens?
Well, I got to tell you, the very first time before we officially launched, I actually did some experimentation with a group of engineers because I had performed a couple times for the transportation department groups. Okay. And so we played with them a little bit and they got really sweaty about it, right? I mean, again, not to be like certain folks, they just think it's going to be harder than it is, or they're not sure what to expect. But then they really dissected the games and how they saw the improv skills apply to our everyday thinking, our problem solving, our conflict resolution. And so when they were doing the dissecting for me and showing that it worked, then I knew for sure that it would work for anyone. If the thinkers were the ones going, yeah. So that's what's really exciting is then when it launched, it was like really any demographic, any industry, any place that employs humans with a pulse. Although a mortuary, I mean, the employees have pulses, but you got to believe they probably could use some improv. But it's just such a universal language, really, to speak improv.
Yeah. And so when we're doing our team building exercises and we bring in somebody like you to come in and orchestrate a group session, tell us a little bit, walk us through what happens. And I know because you've done it for us here in the studio even.
Yeah. Well, it's generally a similar type of a format, depending on, no matter which type of group, really. But it's a series of games and activities, some that make you think more about wordplay, some that make you think more about what types of emotions are behind words. But any given workshop is a couple or 3 hours worth of stretching your mind, working together as a group, nothing about performance and stuff. That's what throws people off. Yeah. Is they're like, oh, I'm going to have to do a scene in front of my peers. And sometimes, depending on the group, I might throw in some of those playful things. But the teams will all experience collaborative brainstorming exercises, or things that really, I like to think of it as a way that we're playing, but we're escalating our normal human behaviors so that we can see them really clearly the way we show up in a moment.
Oh, nice. So let's go back. Let's see. So before you even started Zip Zap Zop, you said you were kind of working a day job and kind of this whole idea of improv really was something that kind of began when you were doing what?
Initially, it started when I was working in retail banking. I was in banking for 10 years. Most of that I was in management. And then after that, my next day job, I managed federal grant money for volunteer firefighter recruitment programs. So in that whole duration of kind of this corporate-y vibe, I could see the way that I was behaving, and I was kind of becoming a better person bit by bit by living in this positive mindset. That I just saw the way it was working in my own teams without even telling them that I'm bringing improv into our environment.
Nice.
It took my level of thinking, oh, I'm having to go to my stodgy day job, to just remembering it's all about the human interactions with my team and obviously with customers, just taking it down back again to those basics, which makes life a lot more fun, no matter what your job is, even if it's super boring.
Yeah. And now you get to live and breathe what you get to do being a comedian and doing all of these different types of coaching sessions and being on stage, which I'm sure you love.
I love that.
Okay.
I really do. My whole life, the tagline, I recently came up with this little tagline for myself because I try to explain to people what I do, and it's kind of hard for people to grasp because I sort of do a lot of different things.
Right.
But really what it all comes down to is I help create happier, healthier human connections through humor.
I love it.
No matter what the business is or the event, there's some way I can help, whether it is doing a comedy performance just so people can get the laugh that way, or actually get people interacting with me. There's just such a great camaraderie and release that comes when we get to find the humor in the everyday, and when we laugh with people, we can kind of build a little quicker rapport because we just have those commonalities.
And it helps with culture in a corporate setting or a small business setting, even if a small team, because then it allows you the ability to continue to collaborate easier or come up with ideas in a different way. And we are always coming up with different ways to be creative and innovative. And so doing the storytelling or where we're pitching a sentence and then somebody else takes it on and on and on again. And it helps us think and come up with different ideas, maybe even before we brainstorm for a client or that kind of situation. Yeah. And so we know when you have happy employees and your culture is awesome, that means you're going to have happy clients, which then means you're going to build your brand, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people think, because you're in the creative world, so you get it. Yeah. But a lot of people think, well, maybe this doesn't apply to me. But when you're talking about storytelling, and marketing applies to every business, obviously. Yeah. And some of the best commercials in the world are the funny ones. The close, I like to laugh first, crying is next. If you can laugh and cry in the same, that's where the money's at. But I think what's interesting is that it does apply to everyone. It applies to the culture. We all have stories. So sometimes we're making up stories in improv, but I love that it allows this positive, safe place to throw out ideas and appreciate where other people come from. The stories can become more robust when we are creating in the marketing world, when we're pulling from all the real life experiences from so many different dynamics. And that's why culture, again, is so important, that people want to love where they are so they feel confident in sharing those little nuggets that could be gold as a team.
And the premise of yes and, explain that. What does that mean?
Yes and is literally you acknowledging with the word yes what the task is at hand, what the suggestion is, whatever it is you're about to deal with. It's not always good. Sometimes it's a challenge. But yes is saying, yep, that's it. That's what we have to deal with. And moves it forward to allow progress to either add additional ideas, to then bring in the problem solving or the strategy or the brainstorming, to move it forward.
In a positive way.
In a positive way, ideally. But sometimes, if you're still thinking of yes and in a way to avoid being stuck in a rut, it just makes you move forward. And it opens up the dialogue for whatever the next steps need to be.
And instead of saying but, you say yes and.
Absolutely.
Instead of saying well but.
Exactly.
But if you say yes and, and then it continues, like you said, and moves it forward. Yeah.
And usually if there's more than one person involved, it gives you multiple avenues that you could go. It could be yes and this alternative, yes and this alternative. When you put them all on the table without saying, no, your idea is stupid out of the gate, then you're opening up a whole other treasure trove of possibilities, and hopefully to get the very best outcome. I mean, I really think about it in a very real sense of everyday life. that's the best way to move yourself forward is like, don't get hung up on things that you cannot change. I mean, you can change them, but only if you and your way out of the situation. You just, the vibe is very
And you've
different.
had lots of situations lately that you've had to yes and out of.
It's true.
Yes.
But I feel like that's why I'm like coming out quicker.
Yeah.
Really. By being so open about it and just trusting the process. Improv has a big element of trust being critical.
Because you trust that the person that you're playing with isn't going to set you up for failure.
Absolutely.
I mean, at least you're doing your best to set them up to then take the story and run with it,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
And so if you can continuously be in that mindset of always trying to set somebody up for success, then that's the whole premise of improv, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So even amid the many life trials, which we all have, that all ebbs and flows, but I think keeping that realness and rawness and positive and not being, I guess maybe people think it's easier to be like, I have a chip on my shoulder. I'm going to negatively bash whatever to get people on my side. Well, you can still find a way to be supported and validated, but not disrespecting the other people who are playing roles in your lives.
Yep. And surrounding the people who are yes-anding you around you. Good.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, let's see, you've written a book. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I wrote a book in 2015. It's award-winning, big
Idaho,
deal, Idaho author. But it is
a big deal.
It is kind of a big deal. I was really surprised and honored because it's kind of scary to put yourself out there in a big way because it's an autobiography. True story of when I had gotten pregnant in high school and hid the pregnancy, and only the birth father knew, and she ended up being placed for adoption. And coming full circle, I was able to reunite with her when she turned 18. But yeah, that was a big changing point for me, or pivoting point. I'm not sure. It was a substantial time
life
frame.
Altering in a good way.
Yeah, because I feel like because I'm such a big fan of just being full disclosure, sharing stories, like the more we know what people are dealing with, the more we can help them.
Right.
And I didn't let people in to help me when that was happening 18 years prior, prior to writing the book. And so it was really a game changer for me mentally, especially with what I do professionally, because I tried to put some humor into the experiences. Ultimately, I think I've found comedy as a profession because of the path my life took with a lot of different twists and turns. And so then it just makes things, again, like when I hit skids now, I'm like, I talk about it in a friendly kind of upbeat way, but in a real way. And then that's helped.
But it helps
too. It lets people yes and me right now when I really, I'm having a bad day, and then people can swoop in and be the hero. And
then now you support a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Which one is that?
Well, technically, I support multiple nonprofits, but the one that I'm on the board of directors of is A New Beginning Adoption Agency. Nice. Is that the one we're going for?
It's very fit. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm the VP of the board there, which I'm just really grateful for that opportunity. That's a big category of human connection when you're talking about adoption, and can be really sensitive.
And it worked in your life for you, and now you get to reunite with your birth daughter and everything. How was that for you?
Collaborate. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
To be able to show an example of a really positive experience, and to recognize that they're not always totally perfect and positive, but no family life is perfect and positive. Yeah. But now to be able to collaborate and have the whole triad of me as the birth mom, her mother as the adoptive mom, and her all speaking out on our angles together. It's really fun to be able to connect people to information and resources. And
come to find out, she's very talented.
She's very talented.
Yes.
Yeah, and she writes her own music and plays the guitar and piano as well. And the voice of an angel. She's doing all the things that I wish I must have skipped a generation.
Oh, no.
Being able to do that skill. But her life turned out in a way that I'm certain it wouldn't have been that way if I had kept her or whatever at the time. And so it's pretty amazing to see the way she's blessing lives with these really inspiring messages from her young life and her birth father, those talents combined too, that he produces events and builds beautiful stages. So for him to be able to build beautiful stages for his birth
So
daughter.
entertainment is genetic.
It's all genetic, yeah. He was a drummer too, and so all the musical and entertainment and we're all kind of an emotional handbag of all the feels and stuff.
Good.
Yeah.
And now you're a mom. You have how many kids?
I have 4 little kids at home. Yep, 10, 5, 3, and 1.
And you were just telling me the 10-year-old is the man of the house, and he gave you some directives on your hair. I love it.
He's giving me a lot of directives in life because I'm recently a single mom of these 4 kids, and I try to remind him he gets to be a kid, but he's very protective, steps in as big brother role, obviously for the little ones, but big protector of me and wants to make sure I have plans when they're gone. He doesn't want me home alone, and he did tell me that he wanted me to have regular, like what would naturally be hair colors, so browns and blondes. He didn't want me to do the purples and the
Sweet.
when he can tell I'm going off the rails with the oranges and whatnot. He's been giving me lots of dating advice for when I get back out there, and it's pretty entertaining.
It sounds like
very sweet.
he's a nice young man for a 10-year-old.
Absolutely, he has a very old
sweet.
soul, and he's very in tune to
everything.
life and strategies, and it's pretty mind-blowing but entertaining and so sweet.
So tell me about some of the things that are keeping you busy now. What's going on in your kind of agenda of things that you've got going on?
Yeah, getting back into the corporate activities. So I tried to pull back a little bit since, as I just mentioned, my young kids are young. So I like to do the mom thing first. But corporate gigs are pretty regular, and that means one of 2 things: either coming in and doing the team building with the actual interaction, or I've got a couple of performances just for holiday parties, class reunions, pretty much anything.
Too.
Yep, I still
a few
MC
events,
some things. Yep. And so I do that performance-y stuff, and then I'm back on track with doing workshops that are open to the public, so anybody can sign up just on their own or with friends or with their spouse or significant other. It's a great opportunity to get back into the community and just have Joe Public can come sign up for workshops.
For improv workshops to learn how to do the improv. And
it's all about the lifestyle. They are yes and lifestyle workshops.
Fantastic. So tell me about one of these events, how has it gone so far?
Good.
Just recently.
Yeah, so they just kind of relaunched. I did some recently, but in a little bit different format. But the one that just recently happened, sold out all the seats and totally variety of demographic. That's what I love about it. I never know who's going to show up.
So kids to adults?
These ones are all 18 and up.
Okay.
But we're talking men and women. This group age ranges were probably low 20s to 60s, maybe late 60s. I think there was a cute old couple that came together, and everyone was there for different reasons. And what is interesting is after the first couple of games, you can feel how they're gonna jive together.
Right.
So I totally shifted up my whole agenda for the day and plugged in some different some of the ones that are a little bit more like playtime activities. Just because that's what it felt like the dynamic was, and it was so great. And then the takeaways, and in my marketing brain went on. I took my ring light and my camera, and I got testimonials right afterward.
Yay.
I'm like, well, they're buzzing. We got to see and the takeaways are always things I would never predict.
Oh,
that's
cool.
the most amazing thing is these basic connections that we have are so complicated in our subconscious, and we don't even realize why.
Really, right? They were pretty much strangers that all came together.
Most of them,
and then you've made them walk away not strangers anymore.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Super fun.
Yeah.
It is.
It is fun.
So important.
I've done a couple of just jam sessions now, and then when you came in with our team, and we did all kinds of fun things at our Pepper Shock powwow, and leading, doing things with our staff that maybe they otherwise normally wouldn't be doing. Like, okay, now create a bus, and you can't have words, and then we make different angles and whatever. It's just so much fun, and I love it. And you're right, you kind of have this natural high when you walk away from doing something like that. It's like adrenaline, and maybe we're releasing all of that, cortisol out of your brain, and you're just kind of feeling on that natural fun element of what happens when you're done, right?
Totally.
And I can see why you're addicted to it.
I know. And for the people to realize that it's not that scary.
Right.
That's my favorite part, is that they try something new and they're nervous, and then they realize that they really had a skill set. They just didn't think about activating.
Right.
So when they walk out going, oh,
It sounds so bad.
I know how to be a human, you know? It's really satisfying on a lot of levels.
Very good. Would you say that in corporate settings where sometimes the culture is a little cold and kind of staunch and just, you know, people are on tight deadlines and more people have more expectations and people have a little bit shorter fuses now. And do you think that after going through this session with you that it just kind of lets that go away for a little while?
Absolutely. In fact, one of my clients coming up is a repeat client, and it's an insurance company. And their staff would not stop talking about the activity, and so that's why they're bringing us back.
Nice.
It's a big shift to be able to pull out of that daily grind,
right? And
then remember, like, we're all in this together, and we rely on each other in these different departments for different elements and blah blah blah, whatever the different roles people play, and it really does bring people back to like the people. It's all about the people. And so, yeah, I really find it amazing when people realize that's what it's about. I have done some for companies where they tried so hard to guide it and to be rigid and to have they had a certain specific desired result they wanted for the entire team. And I'm like, that's just not how it works. And so seeing where the resistance is and understanding why that company has huge turnover.
Right.
And I had employees pull me aside at that event where they were like, this is the only time we've ever done something good in this company. Like,
oh, wow.
You know? And so I could feel the friction. And so I feel bad for companies like that don't understand how to create culture and why it's so important. It's just, it blows my mind, and it makes me want to be like, nah.
One of my favorite activities that you did that I stole from you, but you gave me permission.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
One of my workshops that I did.
For sure.
And I gave you total credit for it. So there you go. But it's just so enlightening because you do the simultaneous conversations.
Yes.
And oh my gosh, like everything from that is just so enlightening, but you learn from it. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I love that one. And it works in several different ways, but essentially the goal of simultaneous conversation is to, again, over-exaggerate some of our habits. But one variation of it is that both people, you're in a pairing, both people will pick a story and they're both talking at the exact same time, trying not to lose the story, which makes it really hard because you're also supposed to be listening to the nuggets from your partner.
Right.
And obviously in real life, we don't generally talk over each other, but we always have these other conversations and dialogues going on in our brain of like, oh, I need to do this other thing and that other thing.
Triggers of what other people are saying that kind of make you not really pay any attention to what you're having to say because we're talking at the same time.
Which really is a breakdown in efficiency and the communication. Like if people aren't listening to you when you're communicating, then that's a breakdown in the ability to work well as a team. And then other variations include like someone reading a how to do whatever tutorial while they're listening. And sometimes I have a third person roaming around that are just like barking other bits of information. There's so many different ways, but really the gist of it is it brings awareness back to like, how much are we listening?
Right.
How much more quickly can we get things accomplished if we really dedicate like this 3 minutes to get information relayed so we can all move on to our next task versus having to go back and retrace our steps, or just the disrespect that's shown if we're texting or emailing or someone's trying to talk. And then as the speaker too, realizing we need to make sure people are listening and ready and allowing the mutual give and take of are we both ready to be present for this information right now? Right now.
And what I did when they both were talking at each other at the same time, then I made the other person say what the first person was saying and then vice versa. And neither one of like, I think they were talking about, a dead fish or something, and like they don't even know what they were saying. Yeah. And it was super hard. And people are always like, I felt so rude saying the same, talking at the same time. Yeah. And it was just naturally that I just wanted to listen and ask questions instead of tell my story, going on at the same time. And it's like, it's just, it opens your eyes. And even now I try really hard not to interrupt other people. And it just heightens my awareness of how many times did I interrupt or did I get interrupted? It also makes me aware when people are interrupting me,
Yes.
Yeah. It does. So it's fun. It's a really great way, a great tool to help people understand. And my favorite is when you're on a conference call or like a Zoom call or whichever go-to meeting or whatever is your choice. And, they have a delay and then people are talking, or like you're talking and then they're talking and then now suddenly you're all talking all at the same time. And it's like, okay, let's take our turns, raise your hand. It's true. Like all those different conversations, and
and it's an easy fix. That's what I love about it, is it's like a simple way to bring that awareness.
Right.
And then when we do catch ourselves, then it's like,
yeah,
it kind of helps us keep ourselves in check and be respectful of
accountable
the protocol of communication. But
it's a good way. I think next time we do that, I'll have to okay, we're going to do simultaneous conversations again, because we have to remind ourselves not to do that, right?
Yeah, seriously.
Fantastic. Okay, so tell us, how do we find out about what's going on next? Where do we go to find out information, what you've got going on with Zip Zap Zop, or what your next show is that you're going to do, and all that information?
My old lady skills are mostly on Facebook right now, because I have a page, Meet Megan Bryant, which it's easier to keep it updated than my website. So I do have a website, but it's the events, everything is always loaded right onto my Facebook fan page, which is Meet Megan Bryant.
And Megan is Megan. No special characters or letters or anything like that.
Mumbo jumbo. Yeah.
Meet Megan Bryant. And then, on Facebook. And sometimes you do Facebook Lives and
I like
all the fun.
Be active on all the different platforms and whatnot.
Instagram.
And, definitely on Insta a lot. I love it.
People now more and more, instead of email, like they'll ping me through all the different channels. And I'm like, okay, now it's just 10 more places to try to find where I
just
need to keep up with people.
It makes it challenging. And I feel like that's like the more tangible way to see. I mean, they're virtual,
right?
But they are literally like, you can see all these different ways we're being pulled, and how are we delegating our attention, and it's all,
there's lots of ways,
on so many levels.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for watching or listening to this. And be sure to subscribe to our channel, or go to peppershock.com/webinars to sign up for more webinars or events that we have coming up. And we will look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Expedition podcast. Find more online at peppershock.com.